Hey, thanks for watching today. Today we're going to talk about the Alabama 2024 tax auction season. We're going to call it a preview because the actual season starts tomorrow and it's going to run all the way into June. So we're going to talk about mainly that first half of the auction season where the lists have been released and we understand pretty well what's been advertised. And so we'll go through that, but first I'm going to take and spend a good bit of time at the front of this video explaining the difference in the new system and the old system in Alabama. This has been something that I see a lot of confusion on forums, on just different places, even videos where people they talk about one of the systems and not the other, and it's important that you know both because both are very much alive and well in Alabama, and you're not really understanding what you're doing if you don't know the difference in these two systems. So I think if you don't understand the difference in the new system and the old system for the tax liens and tax deeds, watch the first half of this video and get a good basis, good just to ground you there. If you already know that and that's old hat to you, feel free to use the chapters on this video on YouTube at the bottom of the video to just jump right ahead to the live demo where you can just take a look at the auctions and get kind of that aerial view of what's available and what's going on there. So let's jump right in and let's talk about when are these tax auctions in Alabama. So the season typically runs from April through early June. Now this is a state we've been tracking, it feels like forever, since about 2017. So Alabama, we've always seen the first auction the first week of April. But this year, one county broke rank and Blount County is having their auction tomorrow on March 19th. So it's the earliest we've ever seen the Alabama tax auction season start in the whole time of Parcel Fair since we've been watching this around 2017. So Blount County tomorrow, March 19th. And then those largest auctions, the larger counties typically occur like mid-May to early June. The noteworthy counties here, some of the heavy hitters, Montgomery, Mobile, Jefferson, Birmingham, and Jefferson-Bessemer. There's plenty of others too. And then the earlier auctions, like April through maybe that first week of May, there are still some notable counties that you don't want to miss. These auctions are probably a little smaller than those above, but Shelby County is a suburb of Birmingham. Baldwin County is Orange Beach and Gulf Shores right there on the coast. Everybody gets excited about beach properties, even though they're almost impossible to get through tax liens. Madison County is, of course, Huntsville. And then Calhoun is Anniston. They always have a lot of properties in Calhoun County. And those are going to be in that kind of the first half of this auction season, so it's good to pay attention to those too. Now, research for auctions in Alabama, it can start as early as January. We get some delinquent tax lists circulated by counties that are quick to publish those, and we post those on Parcel Fair early, and we just kind of subtract the properties as they're redeemed until you get to the actual delinquent advertised list. And once those advertised lists become available, we also have those on Parcel Fair. As soon as they're available to the public, we put them on the website. I'll even say a few of the lists became available just this morning, and they're already on the website for you to look at. You can search those and do your research as soon as they become available. So I'm going to put on my professor hat, and we're going to go deep into this subject. What is the old system in Alabama? So for many, many years, there were tax certificates under this old system, and all of the counties would have in-person auctions every year around that same time in April through June and issue these tax certificates. And we're down to about a third of the counties remaining that still do it this way. The first of the counties switched over in 2020. The first year had Shelby and Coleman County and Baldwin. In 2021, we saw Mobile move over and a few other notable counties. And then in 2022, we even saw Jefferson, Birmingham, Jefferson, Bessemer switch over. So some big counties switched over. And essentially what you were buying in this old system were tax certificates that were issued, and they would mature into tax deeds after 3 years from the date of the auction, okay? So these type of auctions, they use an overbid format, so you're bidding up the price. In other words, the opening bid is gonna get set at the essentially the taxes, and you're going to be bidding above that. If $1,000 were owed in taxes, then I might come in and bid $2,000, then $3,000, then $4,000, and we're bidding up the price. So the auctions are in person for this type of old system certificate. They're typically at the county courthouse. Years ago, there was actually a huge spectacle about how these were by law, by state law, supposed to be at the county courthouse steps, and there was some concern that old tax sales would be invalidated, but they actually issued some changes at the state level to clear that up. So now they're at the county courthouse, not necessarily the courthouse steps anymore. So that starting bid is going to be set at the taxes owed plus any additional fees from the county. We've seen some interesting fees like fire dues and things like that rolled into the amount, so you might see a little bit of extra cash on the end of the opening bid. And what happens is when we're bidding on this property, they're rewarding 8% interest, okay? And they're going to award that 8% interest on even the overbid, which is the amount bid above the taxes owed, up to 15% of the property's market value. Now, any dollars bid above 15% of the property's market value, those dollars are going to accrue zero interest. So let's take a brief sidetrack here, and I'll tell you an example of how that works. If we pretend that a property is worth $100,000 and the taxes owed are $1,000, and we're going to be bidding on this property, so we're going to bid 1,000 to 2 to 3 to 4, 5, 6, all the way up to $15,000. Okay, now $15,000 happens to be 15% of that property's market value since it's worth 100 grand. So if the bidding stops there, and let's say I take my $15,000, buy the taxes on that property, I get 8% on every dollar, even the overbid. Okay, that's pretty rare in a lot of these states to see overbid get full interest. But if I bid an additional $1,000 to win it above that, and it's now a $16,000 purchase, I will get 8% interest on the first $15,000, but that last $1,000 that I spent, I'm going to get 0%, and it starts to blend my total investment interest down. So again, just an easy example here. If we bid the property up to $30,000, that means $15,000 gets 8%, $15,000 gets 0%. So if you average it out, the blended interest rate on that 30 grand is going to be 4%. You just cut it in half because we went double 15%. So that's a lot to say, 8% is going to be on the overbids until you hit 15% market value. So it's not the most appealing investment vehicle for interest rates, because a lot of states that we see with the tax liens, you can get 16, 18 or more percent. So 8% doesn't feel that great. The real value here is that you can tie up a lot more money at 8% because you can get it on the overbid. So let's move on and talk about what are the advantages of the old system. And this is where most of the confusion exists today. The tax certificates from the old system allow the buyer to eject, take possession, and make preservation improvements. You don't have to wait until it becomes a deed. You can do this before the property matures into a tax deed. Basically, once you have certificate in hand, you can start the process of ejectment and taking possession. And once you have done both of those steps, you can make your preservation improvements. Another thing that's amazing about this old system is that the preservation improvements are reimbursable in the case of a redemption. So if you buy my property and I let it go tax delinquent and you start making preservation improvements, which need to be something that you can prove that preserve the value. You don't add a swimming pool and call it preservation improvement, but you would fix the roof, fix the windows, fix water damage, fix floors, replace electrical, copper, AC, anything that preserves the value of this property. When you tie up money in that, if I decide to come back and redeem the certificate, I'm going to walk to the courthouse and say, I want to pay my delinquent taxes. And they're going to say, okay, you owe the taxes plus interest, plus we're going to contact the purchaser of that tax certificate. That investor, they're going to have to give us a list of their preservation improvements so you can reimburse them. And I will have to pay all of my back taxes plus all of those preservation improvements if I want to redeem through the courthouse like that. So it's not so easy once you've started a rehab on one of these properties, it's very difficult for the original owner to come back and redeem that property. One quick sidebar there: if you were to get a redemption in a tax deed scenario, like let's say 3 years go by, you've made your preservation improvements, and the owner comes back then, if they go to the courthouse to try to redeem, the courthouse is going to tell them, sorry, you're going to need to redeem, and essentially work with the owner of the tax deed to satisfy their redemption that way. And there's a whole process for that. I could probably go another hour on that, so we're just going to table it there. But there's a reason people like to buy these tax certificates and tax deeds from the old system, and it's because they can immediately make use of the property, they can rehab, preserve the property so it doesn't fall in and fall apart, and even move in or get a renter and move on with their plans as an investor. They're not sidelined for very long in this old system. Another thing to mention about the old system is that unsold leftovers at the auction each year go to the Alabama Department of Revenue to be sold to the public over the counter. It's a very large, very popular inventory, tens of thousands of properties, and if you see something that's Alabama Department of Revenue being sold as a leftover, it came from one of these auctions in the old system as a tax certificate. And if the Alabama Department of Revenue took that leftover, they will hold it as long as it takes to sell it. And while it's in their hands, it can still mature into a deed 3 years from the date of the auction it was left over from. So that's a pretty good capture on how the old system works and why people really like the old system. For an investor that wants to own property, rehab it, rent it, it's a great system. Not so great if you're just going for interest rate though. So let's switch gears, turn the page in your notebook. Let's talk about the new system in Alabama. And I'll mention up front, it is a totally different animal, and you need to understand from just ground zero how it works. So here we go. First off, about 2/3 of the counties in Alabama, they issue tax liens under the new system in 2024 for their auctions, okay? These are tax liens that are foreclosable after 3 years. That's 3 years after you buy. You must, as a purchaser, collect 3 years of tax liens before you can start the foreclosure process. So how that works is you buy that first lien on a property. The lien purchaser, which is you in this case, you have the first right of refusal each year if the tax is going paid to come in and buy those taxes so that you can collect those 3 years. If you pass on that, someone else can go buy those taxes at the auction. So you definitely want to exercise that first right of refusal if you're trying to get the property. These auctions are the opposite of the old system in the sense that they bid down the interest instead of bidding up the price. So what that means is we start off with the property, let's say $1,000 are owed in taxes, and the auction starts at $1,000 bid with 12% interest. So if I place that bid and you want to bid on that property, instead of bidding $2,000, you're still going to bid $1,000, exactly what I bid, except your bid is going to be for a lower interest rate. So maybe 11 or 10 or 9%. You're going to bid a lower interest than me, and it's going to just keep going down from there, okay? So that starting bid is still going to be the taxes owed, plus some fees if the county finds them. But ultimately, you can get a nice interest rate if you get the full 12 or even 10 or 11%. But as soon as people start bidding it down, I've seen these properties in many counties go all the way to zero. So that's the downside of buying some of these at auction, is you might get a very low interest rate if you keep bidding the property down. These auctions are mostly online, which is a positive thing. I think govies.com has done an amazing job. They have videos, they have great tools for you to set bidding and thresholds in advance of the auction, so you can really kind of keep the emotion out of it and really do some thinking in ahead of time to plan your auction. Now, there are a few, at least one this year, that are going to be in person, that are new system tax liens. Coleman County will have their tax lien auction in person. The unsold leftovers, they are available in some counties. Uh, a lot of counties will hold the leftovers and just roll them into the next year. Calhoun and Jefferson seem to do that. But Mobile and Shelby and Talladega are some of the counties that are the easiest and have the most inventory to shop from over the counter. What's great about the leftovers that you buy over the counter is that you do get the full 12% since you are not buying at auction. There's nobody bidding against you, so the interest rate stays at 12%. We have these in Parcel Fair. We'll show you how to look at those. We have several other videos that cover off-season investing that cover that strategy much more in depth than we'll do in this video. So, down to the wire here. How is the new system different than the old system? Let's just go over some of those big differences. If you buy a tax lien in the new system, you are not allowed to eject or take possession or make preservation improvements until you foreclose. Okay? Think about how different that is from the old system. In the old system, we could eject, take possession, and make preservation improvements and be reimbursed without having to wait for any type of foreclosure or tax deed issued at all. So in the new system, you must be hands-off on the property for 3 years. As hands-off as anybody. You don't have any rights that any stranger on the street would have when you're a lien holder. So if you buy a lien, yes, you're holding a lien on the property for whatever percentage you bought it, but you don't have any different rights than the next door neighbor or a stranger that walks up. So you have no, you're not like allowed to do anything to keep that property from rotting or falling in. One of the biggest differences in the old system, new system, is that the interest rate starts at 12 in the new system and 8 in the old. And of course, the auctions use bid down in new instead of premium bid in the other one where you bid the price up. So we've covered all that. This is just a recap here. It is different that most auctions in the new system are online, whereas the old system, they're entirely in person. And lastly, the leftovers do not go to the Alabama Department of Revenue to sell over the counter in the new system. Remember, the old system gives those nice leftover inventory that we can buy from the state. But if you're in the new tax lien system, it's up to the county to decide if they're going to sell over-the-counter liens or not. And you will deal with the county, not the state, if you're buying those leftovers. Okay. So I know that was a lot to cover, but the good news is we've made it to the demo part. We're actually going to go look at these auctions. We're going to talk about what's available and how to research. So here's where the fun starts. All right, we're looking at parcelfair.com, and in particular, we're in the auction calendar. You can get to there from your tools menu at the top. And I've chosen Alabama, of course, since we're talking about Alabama today. And right off the bat, we can see Blount County, the first auction of the year. And if we want to see the list, we could actually we could just go list the properties from this auction and view it like this. I can go sort by the total value and see what they're worth. There's a $2.2 million property, and we can go check that out. So right out of the gate, this is a some type of apartment building. I can't even count how many units, but it's quite a few. A lot of mailboxes there, and we see it's on 3 acres of land. We can see that the neighborhood is Oneonta. The amount due, which is the tax lien amount that you would bid, is $20,492. Remember, you're going to bid that $20,000, and it's going to be at 12% interest until someone shows up and bids it down to 11 or 10 or all the way to 0. So the point is, the winning bid is going to pay $20,492 regardless. And this is kind of the report helps you visualize what's going on here. Let's click on one tax lien available. This shows the sale date, the certificate number, and the amount. So that's just a good reference for what about the lien. The occupant status unknown. This is going to try and check the address out. In this case, the Postal Service doesn't know which mailbox we're talking about because the address is just Underwood Avenue. It doesn't have a street address. And it makes sense because there's a lot of mailboxes here. The satellite view on the right, I can see there are actually multiple buildings here too. That's why the $2.2 million valuation. In fact, let's open the panorama view, and I'm going to go check out what's going on here. Oh, so it's actually these 2 buildings. So you have a lot of units going on here. It's really an apartment complex that this is. being purchased, the lien on it. So before I show you the auction links, I want to see in the research links section below the satellite image are some useful ways to go to the county and look at more details. If you wanted to go to the Revenue Commission, Property Report Search, or the GIS map, these links will take you to those places if you want to go deeper into research on this property. But let's stop there for this one. And I just want to say the upcoming auction button right here under Purchase Options is one of the most important things, because this will give us the time and the place, the date, and location, which is on live with govies.com, and even the county's phone number if you want to call them and ask questions. But the tax sale information, so and also we have the auction list here as well if we want to go see where this property came from. So going back to our auction calendar, or our auction list rather, if we are looking through here, this is one way to shop. And when there's 183 parcels, this is pretty effective to go through the list. But another way we can go about it is on our auction calendar. If I want to see these on the map, I can click only map properties from this auction. If I wanted to see their over-the-counters, I could click this first option too. Let's just do that so we'll see everything available in the county. There were only 3 over-the-counters, so we're 186 properties. But this gives me that visual top-down view where I can view from the aerial side of things. And so now I'm sort of looking across the map, seeing buildings like that. I can fly over and check out houses over here. And let's check out the report on this property. This is a residential-looking thing. It's a $77,000 valuation and one tax lien available. The tax lien will be $771.21. And again, just kind of scanning through, it's the same as the previous property. We can click and see the auction information there, or just keep researching this property if I'm interested. But we're going to move on to another county because I don't want to wear out one county. So moving down the auction calendar, we'll just collapse March and look at April now. So Shelby County is a very nice suburb of Birmingham. It's just to the southeast. All right, so we're looking at 1,456 parcels here because I'm looking at over-the-counter properties as well. You can see there are over-the-counter tax deeds available. So what I want to do is filter those out. I'm going to click on this Search Filters button here, and let's just go for upcoming auctions only. And that takes a couple hundred properties out of here for me. So now I'm looking at Shelby County. I can check out the properties on the right panel here if I want to scroll there. This is 5 acres. Let's go hit find on map and see what that looks like. It's a house out here with a long driveway. So again, you can scan the properties here, look at their photos on the right. There's one near some water. That always gets my attention. So we're looking at this property near the Coosa River. There's a couple waterfront properties here. So that's always interesting to see properties that are delinquent on a river or a lake. That's just kind of interesting. Moving along, if I'm just doing scanning across the map and pan out a little bit, I'm going to go to map so we can see the contrast better. Another trick I like to do is in the top right, markers and overlays. If I draw the county borders, now I can see Shelby County extends way up here to Vandiver. And I can see, it even goes way down to Montevallo and some of the more rural areas down here. It's a very interesting county to invest in. So let's start zooming into some of these areas. Let's go satellite view again and check out this large 38 acres here. You'll notice it has acreage as well here, 17 and 5. So let's check out... I'm just going to keep scanning the area. Sorry, I want to be able to show you something, a certain property here. So suffice it to say, there's a lot of rural properties in Alabama and even Shelby County that we could be looking at. But I'm going to take a look at some of the properties that are closer to Birmingham up in this area. And let's see. We have... This is land and buildings and a good valuation on it. So let's check it out. The total value is $364,000 and the taxes are $33,948, which will be the starting bid at the auction. And we can see it's an occupied property address according to the Postal Service. So it's a little over half an acre. And moving down, if we wanted to see like the property card at Shelby County, I can click this research link and get deeper information about the parcel and do some more homework on it if I'm considering a bid on it. There's actually a lot of information on this site that will help you out. I can also compare with the Shelby GIS if I wanted to, but for the purposes of this one, let's just take a look and click the upcoming auction. So this tells us when and where and how to get there. I'm going to click on the, so we could register, we could look at the tax sale information. I think, oh, that's still not working. All right, let's try the auction list. There we go. So I'm having some trouble there. But the Govey's website shows us the properties here that are being auctioned. So you can go over here and place your bidding as soon as that opens up. But for now, we just have a little bit of information about the property just for reference. That's about all we know over here. So I know I'm moving fast, but I want to get through one more county. That's Shelby County. Again, it's just southeast of Birmingham, and it's a really nice suburban area there. Good property values for the auction. So let's go to one more county. I want to show you, because of just the sheer demand, a lot of people like to talk about Baldwin County. It's coastal, but actually before I do that, so we have the auctions plotted out through May that we know, the ones that have been announced with official dates. You see some of them have parcels that we can look at now, but a lot of these have not been advertised officially. So we're looking at preview lists and just any way we can get properties on the map for you. So that's so you can do some May research, but a lot of these auctions have not been announced or advertised yet, so you won't see. There's no properties to list yet. So let's go check out Baldwin. I'm just going to only map properties from the auction, so we're going to ignore the over-the-counter properties. And let's just check this out. So for reference, let's open up the county borders again and go to map view. So we're in the very southern heel of the state, on the edge of Florida near Pensacola. Notice that Mobile County slightly to the west, across the bay here, their list is not released yet, so we'll talk about them in our next time when we talk about the later season. Mobile historically has a large auction with a lot going on there. But this is sort of the early side. We have Baldwin County on the east side here. And we'll start at the coast, and you can see everybody wants to see a beachfront property in a tax lien auction. And here they are. There's quite a few. We can just kind of scan the coastline. And there's one, more. And we'll click the full details on this particular one to take a look. So it's this nice beach house right here. It's worth $1 million, almost even. And the tax lien on it is $5,985. Remember, we would click on the upcoming auction button right here to go find the auction, link to it, register, place a bid. All of those things, that same kind of anchor is here for you to find the auction that it's in. But of course, let's go for the panorama view on this property and get a look. See, it is definitely beachfront. The water is right over that dune, and the property right here is the one that's up for the tax lien auction. So looks like a nice area, and based on the map, you're kind of near the peninsula near Fort Morgan. It's a very nice area on the end of the island here. But we're seeing quite a few properties along the way that are just tax delinquent right now, and on the inlet bay side and on the beachfront side as well. So we just kind of keep clicking through those, and again, I mentioned a lot of people get excited about these beachfront properties, but I always have to be the bad news guy, I guess. Most of these will either redeem before the auction because they're valuable properties that people don't want to even think about losing. But the ones that do go to auction have a very high redemption rate after the auction just because of the value of the property. So if you're going to bid on a beachfront property or a high value property in general for Alabama, and even if it's just something inland like this, make sure that you don't bid the interest rate all the way down to zero, because that's one of the only ways you can lose money and time in these auctions. Is if you bid it to zero, you've wasted your time, you've wasted your money. You're going to get a refund of your money, but nothing happens. So at least save yourself a few percentage points, preferably. It'd be great to get 10 to 12% on these, and don't just get emotional and bid all the way to zero, because unless you know for a fact that the owner is not going to redeem this property and nobody's going to buy their redemption or anything like that from them, you have just wasted your time and money by bidding it to zero. And there was really no point in the whole exercise. Again, you have to be 100% confident that the property is not going to redeem if you bid to zero, because otherwise you're wasting your time and money. So that was a long tangent about beachfront properties. Baldwin County has bayfront property as well as you move up. And you can even get into some of the very rural areas, large tracts of land, 533 acres here. I doubt we're going to have a Google Street View image. We do not. The Google car did not drive to it. But it's the same process as we talked about before. You have the tax lien available here, $1,189. And we can see all the important parts about this property, 500 plus acres, value's $274. And here's the auction information if you want to go bid on it. So ultimately what we're doing here is giving you the tools you need to investigate these properties and decide if you want to bid on them. So the last thing I'm going to do in this video, if you've used Parcel Fair before, you've probably done this, but I'm going to show you how to narrow your search so you're not looking at 3,200 properties here. We're going to look at Alabama and Baldwin. If we wanted, we could do all counties and look across auctions, but that's getting a little complicated. So let's just say we only care about Baldwin County. I'm already looking at just the lien auction on April 16th, so that's filtered already to take the over-the-counter properties out. Let's say I only care about vacant land. If I just look at vacant land, that leaves me with 1,154 properties. And if I want to do a minimum of 10 acres, I could do that. Now we're down to 139 properties. And I want my valuation at least $100,000 to make sure it's not junk. That took it down to 53. And actually 10 acres at 100,000, that's not necessarily junk. I'm just using that as a benchmark. So let's go look at those 53 properties. I'm only looking at high acreage property now, 10 acres or more. And if I wanted to actually, oh wow, there's actually some acreage near the ocean. That's very rare. 19 acres and 15 acres right here on the bay area. Interesting. Have not seen that before. If I wanted to, instead of hovering around the county like this looking for the properties, if I want to view that in a list, I'm going to go to the right-hand side, click Parcel Results, and view these results in a grid. Now I can sort my grid and look at the most valuable property up top and work my way down. However, if I want to look at acreage first, I can sort by that. The largest acreage is 554 acres. I can see that here. And move my way down. So it's an entirely different approach. If you're working with just a handful of properties that you filter down, this grid view could save you a lot of time and effort. So let's flip the strategy here and let's look at, I only want to see improvements now worth at least $100,000. And let's take my acreage filter off. And let's bump my value. Let's get real specific here and let's do 200,000. And I'm setting a max value at $500,000, just for whatever reason. That's my strategy. And I'm going to throw in one more advanced filter here. Let's take a look at where the owner is out of state. This is a popular filter if you want to find where the owner doesn't live in the property. So in theory, the redemption probability is lower. The chance of them coming back and buying the property might be lower because they don't live in it and they're not attached to it the same way as if it was their primary residence. That gets me down to 107 properties, and I can tweak my formula here as much as I want. I'll take off the $500,000 cap. That gives me 287 properties. I can set my minimum. Let's set my minimum at $50,000. Whoops. And now I'm back to 361 properties, and click go. I can see that on the map, And really, I can do whatever I want just to filter properties in and out of my strategy until I'm happy with what I'm looking at. And then take those properties and actually do bids on those after I've ruled out the ones that I don't care about. So that gives you a quick idea of how Parcel Fair will help you filter. There's so many features in Parcel Fair to help you track your research, deep research into properties, and then go even deeper into the county sources. So we've just scratched the surface today by looking at Alabama. Before we let you go, I'm going to look at all counties and look at upcoming auctions. And actually, let me clear my filters here just to make sure I'm not accidentally filtering. Let's do upcoming auctions, liens only. We're just going to go big. And let's say if I wanted to look at liens on $100,000 or more, and we'll do everything else the same. So I'm looking across the entire state for upcoming auctions of liens worth at least $100,000. Okay, so I'm going to click go on that. And immediately I have results, 5,266 properties in those upcoming auctions. So I just searched across all the auctions. And remember, we're in the early season, so only about 26 counties, I think, have auctions on our site so far. So that was the fastest way for you to possibly search across those auctions for properties that meet your strategy. And of course, you can continue to filter and slice and dice all you want using our search filters, and it's just tremendous time saver. So I hope this has been useful for you. Hopefully the primer on the new system and the old system in Alabama was helpful. It clears up some confusion, I hope. And if this is a rewarding state to invest in. It's good to learn both systems. It's good to learn all of the different ways to buy. So this channel, we have several videos that cover the ways to buy, how to invest in the off season, how to invest during the auctions. So use our free resources here on YouTube, and then use our tool. Parcel Fair is great just for that time savings and really cutting down to what you want to buy. Thanks for watching, and have a great week.